Welcome to Open Pakistan webinar series. The Open Pakistan webinar series is an initiative of the Open Program for Pakistan. Under this program, the RELO office provides professional development opportunities to English language teachers and learners from across Pakistan. These opportunities include open global online courses, massive open online courses, webinar series, and then engaging the alumni into many fruitful activities. The RELO office, that is, the Regional English Language Office at the US Embassy Islamabad, is the sponsor of this program. Evolution is the local implementing partner. If you wish to stay updated about RELO programming in Pakistan, please follow them on Facebook. If you wish to gain more updates about the open programming in Pakistan, please visit www.evolution.com.pk/eteacher. Today, as a part of Open Pakistan Webinar Series 4.9, we are going to present on approaches to course designing. To present on this topic, we have with us today Muhammad Humayun. Muhammad Humayun is an EFL teacher and teacher's trainer. He is currently working as a secondary school teacher in government school. He has more than 15 years of teaching experience. He has been a teacher trainer by the British Council for primary school teachers to teach how to use English as a medium of instructions in the classroom. He is also hired by the Provincial Institute for Teacher Education by the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. He is also a part-time tutor at Allama Iqbal Open University in Islamabad. He has attained his MA English degree from University of Peshawar. He has done his MA TEFL and MSc in Psychology from Allama Iqbal Open University. So today, as a part of this webinar, you are going to learn about designing a course. This will focus on learner-centered approaches, skill-centered approaches, and learning-centered approaches for course design. You will also recognize the factors which are important for effective course designing. So without any delay, let's welcome Muhammad Humayun for the webinar.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome to the webinar. Today we will discuss the topic which is approaches to course designing, language-centered, course skill-centered and learning-centered course design. So let us start. First of all, let us see what is course design. A course design is the process by which the raw data about a learning need is interpreted in order to produce an integrated series of teaching learning experiences whose ultimate aim is to lead the learners to a particular state of knowledge. This process entails the use of information, select appropriate materials, to develop a methodology, and to establish evaluation procedures to measure specified goals. In education, we often use these three terms, which are curriculum, syllabus, and course. Let's see what is the difference between these three terms. Curriculum is the overall content taught in an educational system. Curriculum is often selected by the government under its policies. What is a syllabus? A syllabus is a document which shows what will be learned or at least should be learned. For example, content page of textbook can be called a syllabus. Course is another thing. Course is a selected set of classes or a plan of study on a particular subject, usually leading to a qualification or an exam. Now, we will see why it is important to have a design of a course. What is the importance of the design? It is because that a teacher cannot teach or include all the items to teach in a specific time. First stage of course designing is gathering information about the needs of the program. Information gathered through needs analysis is preliminary to the specification or design of a course. One essential feature in English language learning and teaching is setting goals and objectives and the selection of materials provoked by shortage or pressure of time. Before Proceeding the course designing process, the designer has to make few things. He will have to gather information about the target needs. The starting question to any course could be, why do these learners need to learn English? Of course, all courses taken are based on a perceived need of some sort. The simple framework below outlines the kind of information that the course designer needs to gather from an analysis of target needs. This framework is based on questions such as, why is the language needed? Is it needed for some sort of study as an academic, or is it needed for some work in professional area, or the language is needed for training, or the language which is to be learned by the learner, will he be using it for the combination of these all, or for some other purposes such as, for example, status, examination, promotion, etc. How will the language be used? This is another question. Will it be used as a medium such as speaking, reading, writing, etc.? Or will this language be used as a channel, for example, telephone or face to face? Or will this language be used as types of text or discourse, for example, academic, text, lectures, informal conversation, technical, manuals, catalogs, etc.? Another question on the basis of which the course designer will be getting information is that, what will be the content areas? Will it be subjects, for example, medicine, biology, architecture, shipping, commerce, or engineering, etc.? Another question will be, who will the learners use the language with? Will the learner use this language which he is going to learn with the native speakers or non-native speakers? What will be the level of knowledge of the receiver? For example, an expert, a layman, or a student? What will be his or her relationship? For example, a colleague, a teacher, a customer, supervisor, subordinate, etc. Another question is, when will the language be used? And where will this language be used? What will be the physical setting? For example, where the language is used, is it in an office or a lecture theater, a hotel, a workshop, a library? Or what will be the human context of using the language? For example, will he be using it as alone, or meetings, or demonstrations, or on a telephone? What will be the linguistic context then? For example, will he be using it in his own country or abroad? When will the language be used? It is another question. Will this language, which is going to learn, will he be using it concurrently with this course or subsequently? Will he be using it frequently, seldom, in small amounts, or in large chunks? Another thing which the course designer must be concerned is analyzing the learning needs. He will be also looking at this factor. To analyze learning needs, we can use a similar checklist to that used for target situation analysis. A framework for analyzing learning needs include the following questions. Uh, Question is, why are the learners taking the course? Is this course a compulsory one or an optional one? Is this due to the upper need or not? Are status, money, promotions involved in this, in taking this course? What do learners think they will achieve? What is their attitude towards the course? Do they want to improve their English? Or Do they resent the time they have to spend on it? Another question is, how do the learners learn? What is their learning background? What courses, diploma, certificates they have achieved? What is their concept of teaching and learning? What methodology will appeal to them? Another question is that what resources are available for the course designer? He will also be thinking about it. That number of teachers available for this course and also professional competence of the teachers and attitudes of the teachers towards the course, the teachers' knowledge and attitude to the subject content materials, what aids are available for this course, what opportunities for out of class activities are available. Another question is that who are the learners then? What about their age, about their sex, about their nationality, and what do they know already about the English they are taking the classes now? What subjects knowledge do they have? What are their interests? What is their socio-cultural background? What teaching styles are they used to? What is their attitude to English or to the cultures of the English speaking world? Another question is that where will the course take place? It is about the surrounding of the a place. Will it be a pleasant one, a chilly, a noisy, a cold one, etc.? When will the course take place? What time of the day will it be when the course will take place? Will it be every day or once a week? Will it be full time or part time? And will it be used as a concurrent or concurrent with the need or pre need? These are the questions which the course designer must consider. Now we come to the three types of course designing. Three types of course designs are: number one, language centered course design; number two, skill centered course design; and number three, learning centered course design. Let's see the features of each design one by one. We will start from language centered course design. This is the simplest kind of course design process and is probably the one most familiar to English learners and teachers. It is mostly prevalent course design. The language-centered course design process aims to draw as direct a connection as possible between the analysis of the target situation and the contents of the course. This language-centered course designing process proceeds as is shown in the figure. Different steps involving in the process of course designing are shown here. That first of all, identify the learner's target situation, then as we have spoken earlier, then select theoretical views of the language, these two combines, and the other skills, the other steps follow. After first, at first sight, this may seem to be a very logical procedure. It starts with the learner, then it proceeds through the various stages of analysis to a syllabus, then to materials in use in the classroom, and finally to evaluation of mastery of the syllabus items. This process starts from the learners and their needs, and thus might be considered as a learner-centered approach. But in fact, it is not learner-centered in any meaningful sense of the term. The learner is simply used as a means of identifying the target situation. Instead of taking the whole of English and teaching it to the learner, as it happens in general English, only a restricted area of the language is taught. The learner is used solely as a way of locating the restricted area. Thereafter, the learner plays no further part in the process. In this model, learning needs of the students are not accounted for at all. Therefore, it is not a learner centered, but rather learner restricted. As is explained in this figure, the difference between language centered and language restricted on the basis of the learner and the course which he is going to take. Language centered course design has some weaknesses also. The language centered course design process is criticized for being a static and inflexible procedure, which can take little account of the conflicts and contradictions that are inherited in any human endeavor. One of the alluring features of this model is that it appears to be systematic, but the learners have to make the system meaningful to themselves. The language-centered course design gives no acknowledgement to the factors which must inevitably play a part in the creation of any course. Data such that produced by a needs analysis is not important in itself, but data must be interpreted. The language-centered analysis of target situation data is only at the surface level. It reveals very little about the competence that underlies the performance. It fails to recognize the fact that learners being people, learning is not a straightforward logical procedure. Now we come to the second type of course design, which is skill-centered course design. This approach is founded on two fundamental principles. One is theoretical and the other pragmatic. The basic theoretical hypothesis is that underlying any language behavior are certain skills and strategies which the learner uses in order to produce or comprehend discourse. A skill-centered approach aims to get away from the surface performance data and look at the competence that underlies the performance. So this design may present its learning objectives in terms of both performance and competence. The pragmatic basis for the skill-centered approach derives from the distinction between goal-oriented courses and process-oriented courses made by Reduson. Goal-oriented is designed in terms of goals. If the course is designed in terms of goals, then there is a danger that a large number of students may fail the course. The process-oriented approach tries to avoid this problem by removing the distinction for target situation and intends to enable the people to achieve a purpose. This is the diagram which represents the process of skills-centered course design. Here you can see different steps of the process. It also gives a clue of the comparison with the language-centered approach and also that of learning-centered approach too. Both at the beginning and at the top as you can notice it. The skills-centered approach can certainly claim to take the learner more into account than the language-centered approach. It views the language in terms of how the mind of the learner processes it, rather than as an entity in itself. It tries to build on the positive factors that the learners bring into the course, rather than just on the negative idea of lakes. This process frames its objectives on open ended terms, so enabling learners to achieve at least something. Now we come to the weaknesses in skills centered course design. Skills centered course design, as we can see that in spite of its concern for the learner, the skills centered approach still approaches the learner as a user of language rather than as a learner of language. The process it is concerned with are the processes of language use and not of language learning. The third type of course design is a learning-centered course design. First, let us explain why the term learning-centered is chosen to be used instead of the more common term learner-centered. Learning-centered approach is different from learner-centered. The learner-centered approach is based on the principle that learning is totally determined by the learner. As teachers, we can influence that what we teach, but what learners learn is determined by the learners alone. Learner is just one factor of the process, but it is not just the only factor. There are some other factors too. They must also be taken into consideration. And another thing is that learning is seen as a process in which the learners use what knowledge or skills they have in order to make sense of the flow of new information. Therefore, learning is an internal process which is crucially dependent upon the knowledge of the learners already have and their ability and motivation to use it. Learning is not just a mental process, it is a process of negotiation between individuals and the society. Society sets the target, and the individuals must do their best to get as close to the target as possible. This diagram shows different steps involved in the language-centered course design approach. The figure shows that a learning-centered approach to course design takes account of the learner at every stage of the design process, as you can see in this diagram. As we saw earlier, that a learning-centered approach takes account of the learner at every stage of the design process as indicated in the previous figure. So this has two implications. One is that course design is a negotiated process. There is no single factor which has an outright determining influence on the content of the course. The learning situation and the target situation will both influence the nature of the syllabus, materials, methodology, and evaluation procedures. Similarly, each of these components will influence the other components and they will be influenced by the others. Course design is a dynamic process. It is always changing and it does not move in a linear fashion from initial analysis to completed course. Needs and resources vary with time. Therefore, the course design needs to have built-in feedback channel, and this feedback channel will enable the course to respond to development. This is the diagram which represents the whole process of the learning-centered course designing approach. Different steps involved in the designing of this course have been specified here. Before determining the content and methodology of the course, we would need to ask further questions and consider some other factors. These questions include that can other skills be included to enrich the main skill effectiveness? What are the implications for methodology of having a monoskill focus? Will it lead to a lack of variety in lessons or a limited range of exercise types, which will be leading to boredom in the learners? So, could other skills be used to increase variety? So, when these other skills are included, how will the students react to doing tasks involving other skills? Will they appreciate it or will they say we don't need to? As other skills are included, so do the resources in the classroom allow the use of other skills. It will be dependent on those resources if the resources are available. And can the teachers handle an integrated skills approach? Another question is that how will the learners react to discuss things in the mother tongue? Will the use of mother tongue help them to feel more secure and to express their views more easily and freely? And how will the learner's attitude or motivation vary through the course? Will the learners get bored with the same kind of activities, etc.? If we want to find the answers to these questions, then the answers to these questions might indicate that an integrated skills approach is required. And also the fact that is that the answers will vary depending on the learners and the learning context. Each time they will depend upon these factors, and also that the answers will vary according to the individual situation and may vary within the time span of the course. As the course progresses and the situation changes, we will get new answers to and hence change the design. To conclude our discussion of the three course designing processes, we can say that traditionally the target situation analysis has a direct determining influence on the development of syllabus, materials, methodology, and tests. Course design process should be much more dynamic and interactive as we saw previously. Particularly, factors concerned with learning must be brought into play at all stages of the design process. Learning centered approach can be called to an approach with the evolved aim of maximizing the potential of the learning situation. This approach is inevitably more complex and based on recognition of the complexity of the learning process. With this statement, we come to the end of the webinar. Thank you very much. If you have any comment, suggestion, or question, you can email it to us on the following address. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.